So as a follow-up to the last video, the next set of questions that I had about beekeeping was, where does beeswax come from? What do you do with it after you're done? What are different things that you can make with it? So that's what we're doing now. Come on down here. I showed you in the last video about honey and extraction and how you do that, where you scrape the wax cappings off of the frame and it goes down into a strainer. And so now we have this cut up beeswax, and you can see that there's not honey in it anymore. We actually put it outside and the bees cleaned it up very nicely. That's nice and dry. There's not much more honey residue left in there. So basically what we do is we put a little water in a container, we get it nice and hot, we melt all the wax, and then we'll show you after this process has cooled down a little bit what this turns into. But right now, as you can see in this wax, there is really good wax, but there's also darker bits and debris and dirt, and maybe some bees might have got stuck in there, so we need to filter all of that out. So that's what we're doing now, and we will come back shortly and show you the next step in the wax melting process. Okay, so step 2 of the process is the wax is melting. So let's take a look inside of the container and see what's going on. It's actually got a little bit too hot. You don't really want to boil your wax, more of a simmer, but so that's in there. You have all the nasty particles and debris and dirt, maybe some bees that got stuck in there. So you don't want that in your beeswax. So what I've done is you heat up a strainer. You don't want to pour hot wax through a cold strainer because it will immediately solidify and it will make it a lot harder for the wax to actually filter through. So I'm just heating up the sieve with the steam from the wax, and right over here we have our next container that we're going to pour into. So again, in the bottom of this container is water topped off with beeswax, but now what we're going to do is filter through a coarse filter to get the first part of the debris out. And take some good advice. Do not do this in your kitchen like me. So you can see there's a lot of solids in there. A lot of beeswax, but still a lot of gunk as well. You're just not going to be able to get by. Look in there close with the camera. You see the two different colors of liquid? On the outside, the left and right, is actually beeswax. In the middle, that dark liquid, that's actually honey. Some residual honey that was left in the cappings. And honey is going to be obviously heavier than water. Water will sit in the middle, and then the beeswax will float to the top. So if this were all completely clean, inside of here at the bottom you'd have your honey, and then in the middle you'd have your wax, and then your beeswax would harden on the top if you would let it. But I did not want my beeswax to harden with all of this gunk in there. Nothing in here, there's a little bit of honey in there, but nothing in here is anything that we want. So all we're going to do now is we're going to press this down a little bit to squeeze some more wax through the filter, and then we're going to let this harden, and we'll come back and show you the third step in the beeswax making process. Okay, so just a quick tidbit here. We talked about pressing this down. So we took a couple paper towels and just wadded them up and pressed down to get all the wax out of here that we could. Come in close. You see this is, for the most part, nice and dry now. It's still pretty hot. There's a little bit of honey in there, but we got as much as we could out. Now this looks very, very clean, but you'll be surprised. We're going to let this cool completely. It's going to harden. You still have the water level in there and the honey level on the very bottom. So once this cools, we'll come back and show you. But just a tidbit, these paper towels, you don't want to throw these away. These are some of the best fire starters that you've ever found. The paper towel obviously burns, but the wax turns it into almost a candle. So if you ever need these, once these completely dry, rip them in strips, start a campfire, do whatever you want to with them, but try not to waste anything if you can help it. So I do not recommend that you do this, but in order to speed up this process just a little bit, I put the wax in the refrigerator. So you'll see here it's just starting to solidify, but we have quite a bit of time left before what I'm guessing is maybe this much wax solidifies, and then we'll pull it out. So we'll keep you updated, but I'm trying to speed up this process so this does not take all night for the wax to cool. It's almost not worth doing an update, but here we go. This is about, I don't know, 5, maximum 10 minutes later. It has continued solidifying, but we've got a long ways to go. It needs to reach the edges and also cool down, which is the longest part of the process. So updates coming soon. So mark me down as the worst filmmaker of all time, but I have lost the video of this coming out and showing the water underneath, and unfortunately I only am able to make wax once, maybe twice per year. But with that being said, here is the block that came out. You can see the debris is heavier than the wax as the wax floated to the top. Looking back at the original wax that was put in there, it's very surprising that it comes out so nice and yellow. But this needs just one more filter and a scrape, and so this will all be remelted one last time, put through a fine strainer, and then it will be ready to go. And you can then make products like candles or lip balms, all sorts of different uses for beeswax. Our primary use for beeswax as beekeepers is to recoat frames for the bees to use. Whether it be plastic foundation or what have you, the bees will take to it more quickly if it smells like beeswax, and especially if it came from their own yard or beehive. So there is a quick video on how we make beeswax, and if you have any more questions that would prompt another video being made, feel free to ask down below and I will do my best to answer them all. Thank you.